Today, we're looking at a purple ink by Zenzoi Purple. Man, those guys are creative. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. There's timestamps down below so that if you want to skip around, you can, but if you got the time, check out the entire video. You can follow me over on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Jinhao 51A with a fine nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form and keep my writing samples consistent. I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is just a tad darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 35 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, and we're not getting any. Tomoe River. Now, I want to say no bleeding, but every spot there's a dot. It's just deeper than other spots, although it's really not showing on camera. Normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 28 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 51 seconds to dry. Not sure if that's worth it with this ink. Scrubby Froze shows no color variation, and we didn't get it. And Rhodia. Not bleed spots me being sloppy because there's no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 26 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, and we're not getting any. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that it is fleeing the water, really pushing its way up this filter paper. Very, water, and then it starts coming in light and gathering at the top. But this is a pure purple dye. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And yes, it didn't travel as far up the filter paper. But if I didn't have that D marking that I let it dry, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference between them. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I'm very pleased with how this performed, especially given the chromatography. It has no blowout, no real problems that are occurring. I would feel safe using this in a note-taking situation if I wanted to go back and highlight. Now that's also surprising when you see what happens with water, which is completely reactivating and lifting it off the page. We see a lot of the white of the paper coming through. It's all that it took to get it out of my pen. Pen Flush does everything that water does and just a little bit faster, but I didn't need it. And the 1/3 bleach solution that I didn't need obliterated it from the page. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link the video on how I do that. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Zenzoi Purple has a viscosity of 2.67, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all 6 of those numbers. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Zenzoi Purple has an average dry time of 19 seconds, making it still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Zenzoi Purple, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice green, and I chose Private Reserve's Foam Green. The second writing sample is done on TWSBI and moleskin paper. Here we see TWSBI notebook paper. TWSBI paper gets no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 17 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 26 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. And last up is moleskin notebook. And we get a lot of bleed through that surprisingly did not touch the page underneath, but does not allow you to use the back of the page because ghosting doesn't even matter when there's this much bleeding through. The medium at the top has a ridiculous amount of feathering. It has spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Look at that medium. That medium looks about like a double broad. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. It has feathering all over it. It has spread about to a medium. No halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and there isn't any. I wouldn't use this ink on this paper. That's all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Zenzoi's Purple? While a lot of times I felt like their colors were just off and were not the best representation of the color name they were choosing, Purple is spot on and a very nice purple ink to look at. What nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, it really gave no color variation or shading in any of the writing, so you can choose any pen. This is really dealer's choice. If you've made it this far, and according to my analytics, 50% of you aren't, and you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.